Alright guys, so today we're going to be reacting to Don't Underestimate the German Economy. We know the Germans have a very strong economy in Europe, but why that statement? Why that statement? Let's jump in and see what's going on.
But it does modern economics just a little bit differently from everybody else, and that may be working to its advantage. While the world has been struggling, Germany has been on a slow but steady growth trajectory. On the surface, the country is not particularly remarkable. Germany is not rich in natural resources, it's not a trading hub at the focal point of the world's oceans, and its population is large but not huge compared to most economic superpowers. Despite this apparent mediocrity though, Germany is the fourth largest economy in the world, and if current trends continue, it'll be the third largest by the end of the decade, overtaking the stagnating economy of Japan. It's also done this despite global and regional economic challenges which have all impacted its closest peers and neighbours far more than it has Germany. That missing factor might be a unique form of economic management that Germany has championed over the last 70 years, which attempts to combine the best factors of capitalism, competition, the push for innovation, and the efficiency of the free market, with strong social policies that don't necessarily come at the expense of those factors, but actually complement them. It's hard to argue with all Germany's success that this hasn't worked well in the country.
This is what I like. You see how everything looks clean, right? You know what I'm saying? Like everything looks clean and organized. That's what I like.
And may work even better in other economies around the world. Unfortunately for Germany, a lot of the challenges it's facing right now are going to be much more difficult to manage its way around. The war in Ukraine, Brexit, and the global slowdown in demand for things like new cars are all specifically going to hurt Germany more than basically any other advanced economy around the world. So the next decade could be the ultimate test of if their unique style of economic management just had a lucky run, or if it really is something that we should be looking at in our own economies. And to know for sure, economists are going to need the answers to a few simple questions. What has been the driver of Germany's economic output? Has it really found the right balance of social protections and market efficiency? And finally, will these recent challenges push Europe's largest and most influential economy into economic stagnation? Once we've done all of that, we can put the fourth largest economy in the world on the Economics Explained national leaderboard.
Wow, Ireland has a very strong economy. Didn't know that. Huh.
This episode of Economics Explained is brought to you by CuriosityStream. All advanced countries in the world today have very similar systems of economic management. They are primarily market-driven capitalist economies with a uniform list of government interventions like taxes, social welfare, common good investment, market controls, and international trade policies. All advanced economies have some form of taxation, which goes to indirectly fund everything the government does. And one of the biggest expenses is social welfare. This includes everything from paying people who can't find work to those who can't work due to disability, all the way to targeted welfare like child allowances. Welfare payments tend to fill more than one single economic objective. Primarily they're there to, well, make sure that people don't starve or have to resort to crime to support themselves. And that's obviously very important. But welfare is also an effective tool to control the economy. If consumer demand is slowing down, then upping welfare payments will increase it again, all other things being equal. Even things like declining birth rates can be influenced through welfare programs that help to reduce the cost of raising children in highly industrialised economies. Some economies take this even further, like Poland, which is effectively paying people to have children because they know that their economy will end up much worse off if current population trends continue. We're going to make an entire video about that next month, so I don't want to spoil too much here, but make sure to subscribe to stay tuned for that one. But either way, it serves as a demonstration that taxes and welfare are as much about controlling the economy as they are about raising government revenue and making sure people are looked after. This is true of all advanced economies, no matter where you would place them on some arbitrary left-right wing spectrum. Yes, of course, some countries have lower taxes and less generous welfare, but all advanced economies still have them, and they all use them to control supposedly free markets. Another thing that all advanced economies have in common is controls on how market participants conduct themselves. If someone agrees to pay someone else $10,000 to build a fence around their house, then the government should have systems in place to ensure that that deal is honoured. If the homeowner tries not to pay, then the fence builder should have systems available to them to get their money without having to resort to violence. On the flip side, if the fence builder strings up a totally useless fence made out of duct tape and bamboo, the homeowner shouldn't be forced to pay. Without controls like this in place, even an economic action as simple as putting up a fence could be very difficult to achieve.
That's a good point. That is a very good point.
achieve. Since advanced economies run off cooperation between massive companies working on projects that can sometimes last for years or decades, it's vital that issues like this can be resolved quickly and fairly. Otherwise, the industries that are responsible for adding all of the value to our modern world just wouldn't be able to function. Again, even the biggest advocates of free enterprise and free markets recognise the importance of these systems, and again, all advanced economies have them. Another common feature between all advanced economies is a strong focus on making investments into projects that benefit the common good. This can be infrastructure that lets industries and individuals conduct their business, or it can be things like education and defence. Nobody would willingly pay to build a highway that anybody could use,
those three
or spend
components
their...
are so important when it comes down to a very well-developed nation. Keeping the focus on those three are I think one of the most important ones. Because if you don't put any money into the infrastructure, of course, your system can collapse. And education, making sure that you're elevating the generations to come. And what was the other one? I forgot. The defense is to make sure that you always are in your best to defend those that are already contributing to your nation. And a lot of people don't like to talk about the last one, but hey, you can have the money in the world, money and the best system. If you don't have nobody to defend it, forget about it. Forget about it. You will lose that in one day.
their money on a military that keeps everyone safe if they had a choice, because either someone else will pay for it and they've saved themselves some money, or nobody will pay for it and they would have been better off buying those services for themselves exclusively. Goods and services like a defence force and roads are what economists call non-exclusionary, as in anybody can use them regardless of how much they contribute towards them, but they normally all still have massive economic value. Taxes, social welfare, common good investment, market controls, and international trade controls are all common features of all advanced economies. And the reason we have looked at them in such detail here is because it's important to show that successful economies all run in much the same way, with far more similarities than differences. The reason that this is so important when exploring a country like Germany is because it shows that once all of this is managed effectively, a country's circumstances have much more of an impact on what an economy looks like than even most economists would like to admit. Countless times on this channel, we have mentioned Norway as an example of a perfect economy, which is mostly just a joke. Yes, of course, Norway is a very prosperous economy with extremely high standards of living and a strong social welfare system, but anybody that's actually watched the video from all the way back before I knew how to use Adobe Premiere will know that it's only really been able to offer a lot of these economic luxuries because it's sitting on huge reserves of fossil fuels and hasn't felt the need to turn those oil profits into man-made islands.
That's what I like or love to call the inside of the minutia, because a lot of these countries, they can have a lot of wealth. However, where is that wealth coming from? It's already coming from the reserve. So it's basically you borrowing money that doesn't exist and making the how can I say this? Not pretending. Pretending is a more stronger word, but giving the illusion that your economy is strong. And we did that in Puerto Rico, but we did that with loans. So the government was increasing the budget every year, and we were borrowing. So during the 70s and the 90s, gave the illusion that the economy was strong. But it was never strong. So it looks like there was money everywhere. 2000 just hit, and all the debt started coming up. And we hit a huge recession in 2008, of course, and the market crashed as well. On top of that, didn't make it better. The island is coming very well, so I'm very happy for that.
Comparing the way that a small, oil-rich country like Norway chooses to fine-tune these controls when compared to a much larger, more diverse, and less specifically resource-rich country like the USA is not exactly fair. Norway could choose to spend more on social welfare without taxing as much and just fill in the difference with revenues from drilling rights in its state-owned oil company. Now, specifically for Germany, the question of how to balance these controls is really important. The good news is that any economy where the biggest economic debate is how to fine-tune these factors is normally doing pretty well. Take economy A and economy B as an example. They both have roughly the same landmass and a population of around 85 million people, give or take. Economy A has these economic controls in place, and successive governments are either re-elected or voted out based largely on how they manage these controls. Economy B, on the other hand, applies these controls pretty haphazardly, but it has some of the largest reserves of natural resources in the world. All other things being equal, Economy B should be larger, but if you haven't guessed by now, these are actually real economies, Germany and Iran respectively,
I was going to
based
mention
purely on the advantages they started with.
New York City and Wyoming. New York State and Wyoming, right? Wyoming has one of the largest oil factories in the United States, you know. But you don't even have like a million people living in that state, I think. Or probably do. But not a lot of people living in those states, you know. Like, you have Wyoming, just a huge state. If you see the state is enormous. But there's not a lot of building in that state, even though it has resources. However, there's a lot of factors that doesn't really contribute to the investment, and one of them is the land. The land is very rocky, so it cannot sustain like high skyscraper.
Iran should be a much larger economy, but it's actually 10 times smaller than Germany. So it really matters that an economy has these systems in place, but once they do, they should be doing okay. Germany's specific approach to this balance is something called Rhine capitalism.
Okay.
The economy of Germany as we know it today has only really existed for 33 years.
Beautiful.
Before that, it was split east and west for almost half a century, with the Soviet-controlled region in the east and the capitalists in the west.
Yep.
But even before reunification, West Germany's economy was run by something that has come to be known by economists as Rhine capitalism. This is still a free market system where most industry is performed by private enterprise with a profit motive, and people work hard to get paid more so they can buy more, but there are a lot more interventions than we would typically find in more free markets like the USA or the UK, which is one of Germany's closest peers. Initially, it's believed that one of the main factors promoting this system was the need to make workers happy with a free market system, as Europe was being divided up between the socialists and the capitalists. Rhine capitalism was a compromise that made sure that workers were still looked after and benefited from the market system, so they didn't get any idea about seizing the means of production or any of that nonsense. That, however, does not mean that Rhine capitalism or any social market economy is socialist, and I get how that's confusing, but it's actually not that difficult. Germany's strong workers' protections and welfare policies are all in place to support its market system. Germany may not be flush with natural resources, but it has an incredibly well-educated population.
Yeah, they know how to negotiate. You see what I'm saying? I don't have the resources, but I know how to get them. You see, that's the difference. I don't have the resources, but I can get them.
Which has helped to build out all of the world-leading companies that have become much more valuable and much more sustainable global exports. These companies include the obvious world-famous automobile and sportswear manufacturers, but it also, perhaps even more importantly, includes a lot of other companies that are responsible for building the capital investments of our modern global economy. Capital in economics is just the stuff that makes stuff, and Germany is full of businesses like Bosch, Siemens, SAP and ThyssenKrupp that build the tools that every other economy around the world uses to build the stuff that we as consumers consume. Germany also has a lot of highly technical small and medium enterprises, which benefit more than they are hindered from the country's unique brand of capitalism. Starting a business is very difficult without some kind of safety net to fall back on. The comfort that people are well looked after in the German system means that workers are both more likely to start a business and also more likely to be willing to work for a smaller, riskier company. Despite some people mistaking the German system for some kind of diet socialism, Berlin is widely considered to be the startup capital of Europe, and a lot of those businesses will one day be the global companies driving the development of the German economy. A heavy focus on making their people as productive as possible, even if it was originally just to stop them from changing the team.
Because they need it. Again, because they don't have the resources, so they need people to bring those resources here with the incentive of profits.
Red has today given Germany a very strong economic foundation. The country has smart workers and it holds its companies to very high standards, so it benefits from the reputation that has built for it. People assume that everything designed and made in Germany is of higher quality than stuff made almost anywhere else in the world.
Even in the United States,
if a random person was asked what Germany is best known for today, engineering would probably be right up there with beer and big pretzels. Even if German goods aren't necessarily of high quality, people are willing to pay a premium for them, and that alone...
Number 10. Even behind Italy. Well, the same percentage. Sweden, even behind United Kingdom, and that one hurts. That one hurts.
Is more valuable to the economy than any natural resource ever will be. But that doesn't mean that the German economy has had it easy. In fact, quite the opposite. It's had almost endless challenges. The reunification of Germany was perhaps one of the most difficult economic procedures ever performed. The challenge was combining the two very different economies and bringing the East up to speed without slowing down the West, that was by this point doing very well for itself. Early on, despite best efforts, the West boomed as the East fell even further behind because existing competitive companies in the West were able to buy up plants and equipment as they were privatised after previously being owned and controlled by the socialist states. The West also got access to more workers. Anybody with any skills could earn a lot more in the existing industries in the West, so as many as 500,000 Germans would commute back and forth every day to work there instead.
Sense.
The rapid growth in the West, mixed with the increase in the money supply caused by linking the two economies, in addition to the extreme cost of transitioning the economy of the East, started to cause inflation and forced the German central banks to raise interest rates to slow the economy down until everything normalised. Even today, East Germany has still not fully caught up with the West, and up until around 2008...
Let me say something. But we don't need the entire Germany to just do almost the same with the West. You see what I'm saying? Like, it can slow down a little bit, the East, take the time, give it another 50 years. It'll be there. It's just, again, it's a different type of economy. It happens here in the United States, a lot of these places that are outside cities, they fall behind. They commute an hour and a half to the cities. It's the same thing.
This difficult economic situation earned Germany the title the sick man of Europe. After 2008, when almost every other advanced economy in Europe suffered far worse through the GFC and the following Eurozone crisis, most people dropped that nickname. Through this all, Germany has been able to rely on its massive export industries to keep everything operating. But it's now facing a new round of challenges, with global trade becoming more fragmented and a slowdown of consumer spending and business investment into all of the goods and services that Germany has become famous for. But if there is any economy in the world that can ride out disruptions like these, Germany has surely proven itself to be a top contender.
100%.
If you're a German viewer watching this video, our German research team has been working on a new German Economics Explained channel. They're starting out by translating some of our most popular videos, but if you all show them enough support, they hope to start making videos exclusive to the German economy as well. I'm personally not even going to try and pronounce the channel name, but we will have a
Wirtschaftswissen. Let me know if I pronounce it correctly.
Link to it on screen and in the video description below.
Wiesen.
Okay, now it's time to put Germany, the fourth largest economy in the world, on the Economics Explained national leaderboard. Starting as always with size, Germany has a GDP of 4.26 trillion US dollars,
that's big.
putting it just behind Japan and just ahead of the UK as the fourth largest economy in the world. It's still a significant gap between these countries and the true economic superpowers of China and the USA, so Germany gets a 9 out of 10.
Hey, not job.
GDP per capita is very strong, thanks to the emphasis that Germany as a country has put on maximising the quality of its workers. Despite being a large economy with a diverse industrial base, Germany still boasts a GDP per capita of $51,204, which puts it ahead of the UK and only behind its truly outstanding European peers like Iceland, Norway and Switzerland, which are all much smaller and more focused around specific industries. Germany gets an 8 out of 10. Stability and confidence is high, but not perfect. Germany, for better or worse, has become the unofficial capstone of the European Union. And while the collective economic region provides many advantages, it also means that a lot of individual national problems become a problem for anybody. That, combined with the German economy's heavy reliance on exports, means that it only gets an 8 out of 10. But to be clear, that's still a very strong score.
Yeah, very strong.
Growth has been slow but steady. Despite all the economic challenges it has had to contend with, the German economy is now around 20% larger than it was a decade ago.
Yeah.
Certainly not strong growth by any means, but a lot better than a lot of other European countries that are going nowhere or even going backwards. Germany gets a 4 out of 10.
What?
Finally,
I might have to re-educate myself because I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Industry. Germany has dozens of world-leading companies at the cutting edge of what they do. The country has built a reputation that lets it add value to products just by having it made within the country's borders. What's more is that it doesn't have the same overdependence on a small group of massive companies as countries like South Korea, which also had a similarly strong export economy. Germany gets a 10 out of 10.
Wow.
Altogether, that gives Germany an average score of 7.8 out of 10, which puts them all the way up here on the Economics Explained national...
Man, even Ireland has a stronger economy than Germany? Well, again, that these numbers doesn't explain really uh, per quality, right? Ireland might be have a stronger economy than Germany. However, the quality of German might be higher than Ireland. You see what I'm saying? Like, doesn't really tell the whole story.
leaderboard. Now, if you want to know about a problem that is very
Very, very good, very good, very good. I love this, man. That give you a nice insight of how the economy of Germany really is, and I love German products. And some of you guys told me, and educated me that Aldi and Trader Joe, both of them are German supermarket, and I love both. Aldi better, Aldi better. They have a better product, and way cheaper as well. Even here in Wisconsin, so I'm very glad that Germany has a very strong culture of innovation and engineer all to it, and everything is like, what I'm saying, like everything is like very nice and organized and clean, and I like that. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the next one.